What if everything you needed to transform your life was already within you? No guru, no app, no long seminar, just radical honesty, quiet discipline, and a willingness to do what most people avoid. This is not a list of hacks. These are not easy feel-good tips. These are confrontational, strange, even uncomfortable, but they are also deeply powerful because they come from a philosophy that survived emperors, wars, exile, and centuries of silence. Stoicism. The Stoics didn't aim for comfort. They trained for freedom, emotional freedom, mental clarity, inner peace, no matter the chaos outside. Today, you will walk through 10 strange but powerful Stoic steps. And if you're willing to try even just one, you might not recognize yourself in the best possible way. Let's begin. 1. Start the day by imagining the worst. Each morning, most people reach for comfort. They scroll through their phones, sip their favorite coffee, and hope the day goes well. They expect kindness from others, success in their efforts, and stability in their plans. But reality is rarely that kind. Life surprises us with rejection, loss, delay, betrayal, illness. And when those things arrive unannounced, they hit like a storm. Most are caught off guard, shaken, broken, angry, but not the Stoic. The Stoics prepared themselves before the day began. They practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It was not pessimism. It was mental training, an exercise in resilience. So how do you begin? Each morning, before you touch your phone, before you speak to anyone, take a few minutes. Sit quietly, breathe, and ask yourself, what could go wrong today? You don't need to dwell on catastrophe. Just face it calmly. What if someone disappoints you? What if your plans fall apart? What if your health fails? What if you lose something or someone? Picture it, not to manifest fear, but to build inner readiness. This simple act changes everything. Because when hardship comes, and it will, you won't say, "Why me?" You'll say, I was expecting this. I am ready." This mindset gives you emotional space. It creates a pause between stimulus and response. It keeps your expectations grounded, and that space is where self-control lives. Instead of reacting in panic, you respond with grace. Instead of being thrown off course, you adjust your sails. And something even more powerful happens. You become grateful. By imagining the worst, you see how much you still have. You savor your breakfast. You hold your loved ones longer. You appreciate health, safety, breath, because you saw what life would be like without them. Gratitude grows not by ignoring pain, but by looking it in the eye and realizing today is still a gift. This isn't about becoming cold. This is about becoming unshakable. And when others are shocked by life, you are steady. Not because you're special, but because you trained your mind to face the truth. Reflection. People chase happiness by hoping nothing goes wrong, but Stoics build peace by preparing for when it does. So tomorrow morning, before the world reaches for you, reach into yourself. Close your eyes. Imagine loss. Imagine struggle. Imagine failure. And then, open your eyes. Breathe in the present. Feel your heart beating. Touch what still remains. You've already survived the worst in your mind. Now live the day with courage and clarity. Step 2. Live one day without comfort. We live in a world addicted to comfort. We expect warm showers, fast internet, air conditioning, food delivered in minutes, entertainment with one swipe. Everything is designed to remove even the slightest discomfort from our day. And at first, it feels like freedom. But over time, comfort becomes a trap. It weakens us. It dulls our senses. It makes us soft. The Stoics saw comfort as a false god, something that, if worshipped too much, would leave a person fragile and dependent. They believed that true strength was not built in soft places, but in choosing discomfort on purpose. So they trained for it. They slept on the floor, they walked in the cold, they skipped meals, they wore rough clothes, not because they had to, but because they wanted to remind their mind, I can live without this. I do not need luxury to be whole. Today, we have a choice to do the same. You don't need to become a monk, but you can spend just one day without comfort. No soft bed, no hot water, no social media, no snacks, no music in your ears. Just you, your breath, and the reality of the moment. Walk instead of drive. Eat simple food. Sit in silence. Turn off the screens. Let the day be plain. Let it be quiet. At first, it feels strange. Your body wants ease. Your mind searches for escape. You might feel irritated, impatient, even bored. That's normal. That's the part of you that's grown addicted to being entertained and soothed. But if you stay with it, something powerful happens. You start to feel present. The taste of plain food becomes real. The sound of birds in the distance becomes a song. The feeling of wind on your skin becomes a connection. And your own thoughts, once buried under noise, become visible again. You start to realize how much of your life you've been sleeping through. Comfort can numb you. Discomfort can wake you up. When you voluntarily give up comfort, you reclaim control. You show your body that it is not in charge. You show your cravings that they do not rule you. And you show your mind that it can remain steady, even in simplicity. You become lighter, clearer, more alive. Most people think strength comes from pushing harder, from doing more. But the Stoic knows real strength sometimes comes from subtracting, from taking things away, from learning to be okay with less. Because when you no longer fear discomfort, life cannot threaten you. If you've trained yourself to go without, then you are free. No job loss, no rejection, no failure can shake you, because you've already proven to yourself, I can endure, and more than that, I can grow through it. Reflection. So take one day, just one. Step away from the cushions and the noise. Remove the soft layers that numb your awareness. Not to suffer, but to return. To remember that you are capable, that you are resilient, that you do not need 1,000 comforts to stand tall. The Stoics did not avoid discomfort. They walked into it with calm, not to become martyrs, but to become masters of themselves. And so can you. Live one day without comfort and discover how strong, how awake, and how free you really are. Step 3. Go completely silent for a whole day. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become rare, almost suspicious. We fill our days with noise. We scroll through opinions. We interrupt. We reply before we've really listened. The moment there is a pause, we rush to fill it with words, with sound, with distraction. But what if, just for one day, you stopped speaking completely? No comments, no small talk, no replies, no explanations, just silence. This isn't about punishing yourself. This isn't about being cold or rude. It's about rediscovering a deeper kind of awareness, one that only begins when the voice goes quiet. The Stoics believed in the power of restraint. They understood that real control often begins with the tongue. Talk less, observe more. React slowly, reflect deeply. To be silent is not to be weak. It is to become intentional with your presence. When you go silent for a day, you give yourself the space to see how often you speak, just to fill time. You start to notice how much energy goes into opinions that don't matter, into defending things that don't need defense, into trying to impress people who aren't even listening. In silence, the noise of ego becomes louder. At first, that part of you that wants to be heard, validated, seen. But slowly, something shifts. The need to be right fades. The pressure to comment disappears. And what remains is peace. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You notice what disturbs you, what distracts you, what brings you back to the present. You watch your surroundings without judgment. You start to understand others more because you are finally listening. Not just hearing, but listening. Try it. No words for one full day. Communicate only if absolutely necessary, and only with the fewest gestures or written notes. No chatting, no texting, no posting, no just one quick reply. You may feel awkward. You may feel disconnected, but beneath that surface discomfort is a deep river of presence. In silence, you become your own witness. You see how your emotions rise and fall without feeding them with commentary. You feel your body more. You breathe deeper. You become a student of your own experience, not a narrator of it. It is a humbling practice, because you realize how much of your identity is tied to how you speak, how you explain, how you react. But when all of that is stripped away, something pure remains. A stillness, a quiet strength. And this is what the Stoics were after. Not just self-control, but self-knowledge. And silence is the doorway to both. Reflection. We live in a culture that worships expression. But sometimes the most powerful expression is no expression at all. Silence is not empty. It is full of insight if you are willing to listen. So give yourself a day of quiet. Let the world speak while you stay still. You'll find that silence is not a prison, but a sanctuary. And in that sanctuary, you'll meet someone you've been too distracted to notice. Yourself. Step 4. Burn or throw away non-essential items. We collect things. Over the years, we gather clothes we no longer wear, papers we no longer need, souvenirs from moments we've already forgotten, and gifts that never truly meant anything. Our homes become museums of our past selves. Our minds, cluttered mirrors of our surroundings. We call it stuff, but for many of us, it's more than that. It's comfort, it's identity, it's security. And slowly, without noticing, it becomes weight. The Stoics believe that anything you cannot let go of owns you. If your happiness depends on objects, you are not free. You are held hostage by what you think you need. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life." Seneca advised practicing poverty, even when rich, so the fear of loss could no longer control you. And so today, we take one radical step. Burn it, or throw it away. Let go of what is non-essential. Not tomorrow, but now. Open your drawer. Look at what you haven't touched in a year. Open your closet. Look at what you're keeping, just in case. Open that dusty box of memories. Ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is it just a story I refuse to close? Start small. One item. One thing you've been holding on to out of guilt, out of fear, out of nostalgia. Maybe it's an old letter. Maybe it's a broken object that carries too much memory. Maybe it's something expensive that brings you no joy. Pick it up. Feel the weight of your attachment. Then let it go. Throw it away. Or burn it. Carefully, safely, as a symbol of release. At first, you may feel uneasy. It feels wrong to destroy. We're taught to preserve. But there is a kind of sacred destruction that clears the space for something deeper. You're not just removing clutter from your home, you're removing dependency from your soul. Because what you truly are is not what you own. You are not your bookshelf. You are not your wardrobe. You are not your phone or your car or your home. You are what remains when all of it is gone. Letting go is a declaration of strength. It says, I do not fear emptiness. I welcome clarity. You'll begin to feel lighter. Your space will breathe again. And so will your mind. You'll realize how much mental weight was tied to physical things. The pressure to maintain, to keep, to protect, to display. When you let go of the non-essential, the essential begins to shine. Reflection. We are not buried by the things we own. We are buried by the meaning we give them. So free yourself, not by adding more, but by subtracting. Burn the story you no longer need. Throw away the mask you no longer wear. Create space not just in your room, but in your heart. And in that space, you might just find peace. Step 5. Spend 24 hours only with yourself. We are constantly surrounded by noise. People, notifications, conversations, opinions. From the moment we wake up, we're pulled into the lives of others. We text, we scroll, we respond. We're always available, and rarely truly present with ourselves. But what would happen if you spent just one full day, 24 hours, entirely alone? No calls, no texts, no social media, no meetings, no small talk, no company but your own. It may sound peaceful, but for many people, it's terrifying. Because when the world goes quiet, we are left with the one person we often avoid most, ourselves. The Stoics knew that solitude was not a punishment. It was a sacred opportunity. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, wrote in his journal Alone at Night, reminding himself of virtue, mortality, and humility. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when we are no longer afraid of being alone. And Seneca reminded us that if you are not at peace in your own company, no crowd will ever save you from yourself. Solitude strips away the distractions. It removes the mirrors. It silences the noise, and in that silence, you hear who you really are. Try it. Choose a day. Take yourself somewhere quiet. Maybe a cabin, a park, or even your own room. Turn off your phone. Close your laptop. Let go of the need to be available. Let go of the urge to update others. And just be. You may feel restless. You may feel lonely. You may reach for your phone out of habit. But if you can sit through that discomfort, something amazing happens. You begin to notice your thoughts. The way they rise, twist, and fall. You notice your breath, your posture, your energy. You feel your emotions instead of suppressing them. You begin to understand your own patterns. The things you avoid, the stories you tell yourself, the fears you mask with busyness. This is not about isolation. It's about reconnection. Because until you can sit with yourself in silence, you don't really know yourself at all. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you become stronger in every other area of life. You stop depending on constant feedback. You stop fearing rejection. You become whole, not because others validate you, but because you found home within. And perhaps that's the most stoic truth of all, that your peace must come from within, because the world cannot promise you stability. But your own mind, your own soul, that's something you can cultivate. Something you can trust, if you're brave enough to meet it. Reflection. In a world addicted to connection, solitude has become revolutionary. Spend 24 hours only with yourself. Not to escape the world, but to return to who you were before the world told you who to be. Let the silence speak. Let the quiet reveal. And let yourself rediscover the only relationship that lasts a lifetime, the one you have with you. Step 6. Confront someone you've been avoiding. There is someone in your life you've been avoiding. It could be a friend who hurt you, a colleague who crossed a line, a family member with unresolved tension, or maybe someone you wronged and never made things right with. You think about them more often than you admit. You replay the last conversation. You imagine what you should have said. You avoid certain places or moments because you don't want to run into them. And yet, nothing ever truly feels settled. Avoidance is a quiet prison. It whispers, "Stay safe. Don't make it worse." But it also keeps you stuck. Because as long as the conversation remains unfinished, so does your healing. The Stoics believed in the power of facing discomfort. They taught that avoidance gives fear more control. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Translation: be willing to face the hard moment, even if your voice shakes, even if your pride gets bruised, because peace is not found in silence. It is forged in truth. So what would it mean to confront the person you've been avoiding? Not with rage, not with blame, but with calm, honest presence. To speak, not to attack, but to clear the air. To say what you mean. To listen, truly listen to their side. And to walk away lighter. This is not about getting an apology. It's not about winning. It's not even about making them understand. It's about reclaiming your integrity. It's about stepping into courage. It's about saying, "I will no longer let fear dictate my relationships." You may be met with anger. You may be met with silence. Or they may surprise you. But none of that matters more than the act itself. Because the act is a declaration. I choose honesty over comfort. This is a Stoic move. It's clean, direct, without drama. It asks only this: what is left unsaid that needs to be said? That doesn't mean yelling. It doesn't mean proving a point. It means sitting down, looking someone in the eyes, and speaking your truth, calmly, respectfully, and without expectation. It means clearing the fog. It's possible they won't receive it well. It's possible the relationship won't improve. But that's not your part to control. Your part is to release the burden of silence. Your part is to walk through the door that fear told you to keep closed. And once you do, you'll feel it, not instant joy, but quiet power, a sense of maturity, a clearing of emotional clutter, and a new space for peace. Reflection. Confronting someone isn't about fighting. It's about freedom. Freedom from the weight of words never said. Freedom from the tension that follows you like a shadow. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need the right script. You just need honesty and courage. So ask yourself, who have I been avoiding? And what would my life feel like if I finally faced them? The answer may scare you, but it may also set you free. Step 7. Wake up at 3 a.m. and reflect on life. There's something different about 3 a.m. The world is quiet. The lights are low. The noise is gone, not just outside, but inside you. At 3 in the morning, no one is asking anything of you. No deadlines. No distractions. No performance. Just you. And whatever is still echoing in your soul. Most people are asleep. But waking up at 3 a.m. on purpose is not just a physical act. It's a ritual of returning to what matters. The Stoics believed that reflection was essential. That self-awareness wasn't something you stumble into. It was something you had to create space for. Marcus Aurelius wrote many of his deepest insights in the early hours, alone, by candlelight. Because that's when the masks come off. That's when the truth speaks. When you wake up before the world does, you step outside the cycle of rush and noise. You enter a space untouched by expectation. Sit, light a candle, breathe, and then ask yourself questions that rarely find space in your busy life. Am I living the life I truly want? What am I avoiding? What have I been pretending not to know? What matters most right now, and what have I placed above it? You're not looking for quick answers. You're listening. Not to the noise of your goals or the pressure of society, but to the quieter voice underneath, the one that usually gets drowned out. This is not self-judgment. It's not about fixing yourself. It's about facing yourself. You see what's been neglected. You remember people you've taken for granted. You notice your regrets and your hopes. You watch your thoughts without rushing to change them. The early hour becomes a mirror. And here's the truth. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. You may feel guilt or sadness or longing, but in that discomfort is something sacred. Clarity. At 3 a.m., no one is watching. You don't need to impress anyone. You're not curating a version of yourself for others. You're just being human. And in that stillness, your values come forward. You remember what kind of person you wanted to be, what you used to care about before life got so loud. You feel what your heart is asking for, not just what your mind has been chasing. This one small act, waking up in the middle of the night, can reset your direction, not with force, but with presence. It reminds you that reflection is not a luxury, it's a survival skill, and 3 a.m. offers the perfect stage for it. Reflection. The world tells you to wake up early to hustle, to grind, to get ahead. But the Stoic wakes early for something deeper, to meet themselves in the dark, to make sure they're not just alive, but awake. So try it. Set your alarm. Wake up while the world sleeps. Not to run, but to sit, to breathe, to remember. And in that silent hour, you might just discover the path your soul has been quietly asking you to walk all along. Step 8. Write a will as if you'll die tomorrow. Death is not a comfortable thought. Most people avoid it. We distract ourselves with busyness. We convince ourselves we have time. We plan months ahead, build careers, make promises, all while pretending tomorrow is guaranteed. But what if it's not? What if tonight is your last? What if tomorrow never comes? The Stoics didn't shy away from this question. They leaned into it. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. It wasn't a threat. It was an awakening. Writing a will, even if you're young, even if you're healthy, is a Stoic exercise in clarity. It forces you to look closely at what truly matters. To ask, what do I leave behind? What have I created? What have I mended? What have I left broken? Sit down, take out a piece of paper, and write a will. Not just of money or possessions, but of meaning. Start with the physical. If I die tomorrow, who receives my belongings? Who do I want to leave something to? And why? Then go deeper. What lessons have I learned that I wish to pass on? What words do I want someone to hear while I still can speak them? And then deeper still, who do I need to forgive? Who needs to forgive me? What apology have I never said? What love have I never spoken? This is more than legal paperwork. This is legacy. This is spiritual inventory. Because when you confront death, you confront life. You realize how much you've been postponing. You see how fear has delayed your courage. You notice the relationships you've allowed to fade. You recognize the dreams you've been keeping on hold, waiting for the right time. But death doesn't wait. Writing a will as if you'll die tomorrow cuts through the noise. It removes the ego. It strips away pretense. You stop pretending you have endless time to say what needs to be said. You stop hoarding your words like you'll live forever. And that's the paradox. When you live as if time is short, your days expand. They become rich, intentional, sacred. Suddenly, kindness matters more than being right. Gratitude comes easier. You forgive faster. You love deeper. Because the clock is ticking. And that's not a curse. That's the gift. Reflection. Writing your will is not a sign of giving up. It's a sign that you understand what's important. You don't need to be dying to think about death. You just need to be alive enough to care about how you're living. So take a moment. Face what most people run from. Write your will. Not out of fear, but out of love. Love for those you'll leave behind. Love for the person you still have time to become. Love for the chance to live this one short life without delay. Step 9. Give away something you deeply love. We all have something we cherish deeply. A jacket that holds memories. A book filled with highlights and notes. A watch that marked a special moment. A gift from someone we once loved. An object that feels more like a part of our identity than just a thing we own. We say we're not attached. We say it's just stuff. But when the moment comes to part with it, the hesitation speaks louder than words. The Stoics warned us about this kind of attachment, because anything you can't let go of holds power over you. Epictetus said, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it, but only I have given it back.' To him, everything we own is temporary, on loan, and the wise person practices letting go, not when forced to, but by choice. That's why this step matters. Give away something you deeply love. Not because it's broken, not because you've outgrown it, but because you're strong enough to say, 'I don't need this to be whole.' Maybe it's a piece of jewelry that once gave you confidence. Maybe it's a pair of shoes that made you feel powerful. Maybe it's a book you've read a dozen times and know by heart. Give it to someone who needs it. Give it to someone who will treasure it next. Or simply let it go without needing it to serve any purpose anymore. The point is not to suffer. The point is to release your grip, to remind yourself that your strength doesn't come from what you possess, but from what you can give without fear. Because giving something you deeply love is not about loss. It's about reclaiming your inner abundance. It shows you that you are not owned by your attachments, that you can feel joy without clinging. That love does not have to mean possession. That the story continues even when you close one chapter. When you let go of something meaningful, you also let go of the subtle fear that you'll be less without it. That's a powerful moment. You realize you were never the object. You were never the memory tied to it. You were the meaning, the presence, the intention, and those cannot be taken from you. Try it. Choose one object, one thing that holds meaning for you, and instead of locking it in a drawer, release it. You might feel grief. You might feel resistance. That's natural, but if you breathe through it and let it go, you'll feel something else too. You'll feel light. You'll feel free. Reflection. What you give away is never truly lost. Sometimes, giving up what we love most is what brings us back to ourselves. So find that object, thank it for what it gave you, and then release it. Because love doesn't mean holding tighter. Sometimes, love is letting go with grace and realizing you are still whole. Step 10. Forgive the one who's hardest to forgive. Some wounds don't bleed. They stay hidden beneath the surface of our lives, our smiles, our strength. They live in our memories, in the silence after a name is mentioned, in the way we avoid certain places or replay certain moments. And sometimes they live in a single word, unforgiven. There is someone in your life who hurt you. Maybe they betrayed your trust. Maybe they abandoned you when you needed them most. Maybe they lied, manipulated, humiliated. Or maybe they simply never said sorry and moved on as if nothing ever happened. And still, you carry it. Not in your hands, but in your heart. Not every day, but often enough to feel the weight. The Stoics taught us that peace is found not through control, but through release. They did not believe in revenge. They believed in reason, and reason tells us, Holding on to pain does not protect us. It poisons us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury," meaning to rise above, to become free. And freedom begins with forgiveness. But not just any forgiveness. Not the easy kind. Not the kind you offer to someone who apologized, who made things right, who earned your grace. This is harder. This is the kind of forgiveness you give, even when they don't deserve it, even when they never asked for it, even when they might never even know. Because forgiveness is not a gift you give them. It is a gift you give yourself. It doesn't mean you excuse what they did. It doesn't mean you invite them back into your life. It doesn't mean you forget. It simply means you're done suffering twice. Once from what happened, and again from replaying it in your mind. Try this. Close your eyes. Picture the person you've refused to forgive. Let all the anger rise. Let the pain speak. Let your truth be heard inside your own soul. And then, when you're ready, release them. Say the words, "I forgive you." Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. You may not feel better immediately. Forgiveness is not a switch. It's a process. But that moment, that decision, starts to chip away at the chains you've carried for far too long. You are not weak for forgiving. You are strong enough to choose healing over hatred. You are wise enough to know that carrying a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Letting go is not forgetting. It's remembering without reliving. It's honoring the lesson without holding the pain. You were hurt, but you are not just the hurt. You are more. You are the one who gets to decide what happens next. And when you forgive the one who's hardest to forgive, you step into the rarest kind of power. The kind that doesn't need to win. The kind that simply walks away free. Reflection. You've carried this weight long enough. Forgiveness does not mean they were right. It means you are ready to stop letting their wrongs define your life. So take a deep breath. Let it go. Not for them, but for the version of you that's been waiting to breathe again. Because sometimes the most radical act of strength is letting go with love. The world will tell you to chase more noise, more speed, more attention. But the Stoics remind us, real strength is subtraction. Peace is not something you find. It's something you uncover when you remove what's not essential. You've just seen 10 steps. Unusual, brave, honest. Some will challenge your ego. Some will test your comfort. But all of them invite you home, back to your core, back to your stillness, back to the kind of life that doesn't just look good but feels right. So the question now is not, can you do it? But will you? Start small. Start quiet, but start. Because the life you truly want is already waiting for you on the other side of fear.